Hey guys! So, this week on Nostalgic Friday, why don't we talk about toys? Yeah, come on, those were a big part of our childhood, right? Come on, so much happened, like we come up with our own stories and adventures thanks to, playing with those things. Probably the reason why we're all creative to this day for coming up with such amazing stories to have our characters be in. So yeah, but how many of these toys did we play with actually got their own cartoon? Yeah, come on. There was so much of that happened back in the day. Come on, you got the Ninja Turtles, there was the Gem and the Holograms, and of course, a franchise that's always been beloved to me, My Little Pony, and probably a few others you could probably name at the top of your head that have their own toys. Anyways, today I'm going to be talking about some cartoons based off toy lines. So without further ado, let's get started. So starting off, I'm gonna start with this very well-known franchise that's been around since the 80s. And it's pretty much beloved by everyone to this day, even though I've heard some people, who I've seen it, say a bit of some negative stuff about it. And kind of make fun of it for other reasons. But I guess it could just because these people didn't grow up with it. But what the hell? I'm sure there are some of you who grew up with it. So I'm talking about the beloved franchise, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. So here's a little thing. I've never actually seen I've never actually seen, a single episode of this show because it was from the 80s. Then again, it's not like I don't care for anything from the 80s, but then again, I think the 80s were an interesting time in any way. But here's a funny story. So I think my introduction to them was probably from watching this reviewer who I sadly no longer watch because she barely even uploads anything nowadays. Although I'm not quite sure. I haven't been really keeping up because I will only watch her stuff for her My Little Pony videos. And this was way before I even started my channel. So besides ponies, she did also review other things, and one time she actually reviewed, I guess, a figure from this franchise, and I'm like, okay, I've never heard of this Masters of the Universe. It only said Masters of the Universe in the title, so no He-Man was involved. And basically, my mom, who was in the other room, asked, "What you doing?" And I said, "Oh, nothing. I'm just watching this girl who I love watching, review a toy from this show I never even heard of called Masters of the Universe." And my mom's all like, "Oh yeah, that was around when I was little." Although, to be fair though, my mom was a teenager in the 80s, so she probably would have been too old for that type of stuff. And also, it was mostly targeted towards boys, but I'm pretty sure there were some girls who liked it too. Come on, it even got a spin-off called She-Ra for crying out loud. Oh, and not to mention, there's even that well-beloved She-Ra series on Netflix that I know everyone likes, even though I never bothered to see myself, because what the heck, I'm not really interested, but honestly, I get it. A lot of people like it. It's got a beloved franchise, and the animation does look nice, but I don't know. I just don't see myself looking into it. But what the heck? So, yeah. Okay, next on the list is a toy franchise that I have fond memories of seeing commercials for, but yet didn't bother even looking into it because, well, it was a toy for boys. But then again, I was a kid back then, and what the heck, I was more into girly things. Even though nowadays, I guess it's kind of a mix between this stuff. I guess it doesn't really matter if it's boy stuff or girl stuff, because nowadays we both like, because nowadays we're all, I guess, girls, because nowadays we're in a time where people say, yeah, boys can like girl stuff and girls can like boy stuff. But yeah. So, did you guys know that Hot Wheels had a cartoon back in the late 60s? Yep, no joke. And, well, it didn't do so great, and it only lasted one season. But when I saw this, I'm like, wait a second. There was another Hot Wheels cartoon? Because here's the thing. Do you guys remember a little show on Cartoon Network called Hot Wheels Battle Force 5 that I guess aired that aired, and I think was sort of something to tie in with the toy line. I mean, yeah, I just remember that show because what the heck? I mean, because I remember that time, Cartoon Network, for having, some interesting stuff on there, but then canceling it too soon. Yeah, and I probably just unlocked a memory from your childhood that you forgot about. Yeah. But I mean, as soon as I heard about this, I'm like, oh wow. I mean, I didn't even know that exists. I mean, then again, there was another show that came on before during my time, but yeah. So yes. Okay, now we're moving on to another toy franchise, I think, from the 80s too. So there was this toy franchise, from what I heard. It was called Pound Puppies. And here's the thing. The first time I actually heard about it was actually from watching My Little Pony on the Hub, because you see when I was young, we still had cable TV until my parents decided, yeah, screw it, we're going to get rid of this cable TV. It's too expensive. We're just going to move on to streaming platforms. I mean, come on, those are hip today. Whenever I watched My Little Pony, I mean, I had the show record sometimes. And although I would fast forward to, the commercials, although I guess there would be a moment before I would go back to the show, they play an ad for one of the shows or something. Or maybe if I was at someone's house, because they had the Hub on their TV, and I would just be watching it, there, because my mom was doing something. I'm like, yeah, here, My Little Pony's on. I think this will keep you occupied for a minute while I'm done. I'm like, okay. So yeah. But yeah, there was a show that also came on there called The Pound Puppies, which I'm pretty sure was also another show tied to Hasbro, but didn't bother, looking into it, because what the heck? Ponies were the only thing I wanted to watch on that network back in the day. But yeah. But hey, I mean, but here's another thing though. I actually, not only was this the only thing that got me into it, that introduced me to it, but I didn't even know it was also a franchise from the 80s, like My Little Pony. Like, they had a TV show in the 80s too, which according to people I think wasn't that great, and people say that the reboot is better. And also there was a movie that I actually learned about from the Nostalgia Critic, of all people. I'm like, okay, so that's a thing. So yeah, I mean, now here's the thing. Pound Puppies is actually like, these I guess plush toys that kids can adopt, like a perfect replacement for a real life dog, if their parents say, I'm like, in fact, parents, if your kids are constantly asking for a dog, I'm like, okay, here's this stuffed animal. It's all yours. You can adopt it. Yeah, silly me indeed. So yeah, I mean, that existed. Okay, I have a question for you. Do video games count as toys? Well, if you answered yes, then yes. So here's another toy franchise I was heard about from the internet, called Captain N Game Master, I think is what it's called. And I've seen a lot of negative reviews on this one, because apparently their complaint is the characters look nothing like their original video game counterparts. So yeah, you might be disappointed when you see this show, because I tell ya, I've seen the art, and it's not that great. Like, I mean, it's got Mega Man, and I don't know the others. I'm terrible with names, I tell ya. I mean, Mega Man was the only one I could remember from that. But yeah. So I mean, this is basically like a show where, a character, character from the real world gets transported into an unknown world, and they have to fight the bad guys in order to return home. So yeah. Except here's the thing, the show isn't that great. It's terrible, it's trash, and the characters look nothing like their original video game counterparts. And that's all I guess you need to know. So you guys have ever heard of the toy Teddy Ruxpin? That creepy, teddy bear from the 80s that you put into that you put a cassette tape in and it like talks. Like, hi, I'm Teddy Ruxpin and I love you. So yeah. Well, did you know this guy had a cartoon? Yeah, no joke. Yeah, no joke. So it's apparently called, I guess, Teddy Ruxpin Adventures. I'm like, oh, wow. Or maybe The Adventures of Teddy Ruxpin, I think. And I'm like, oh, wow. I mean, I've heard this toy, and yet no one mentioned it had a cartoon, too. But I mean, what the heck? I mean, the toy was so popular, they, of course, had to make a toy. They, of course, had to make a show out of it. I mean, come on. This was the 80s, after all. Didn't every toy get a show in the 80s? I mean, for reals. So, I mean, basically, the show was basically like an adventure story. Teddy and, like, his friend, who's, I think, some sort of, I don't know, octopus or squid thing, try to find a treasure. And I don't know, there's an evil corporation of monsters and villains, and, they have to, they gotta try and find this treasure. So, and that's, I guess, pretty much the whole thing, like, just Teddy and his friends going on adventures. So, yes. So anyways, that's all I got for today. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.